Zenfam, I come before you to speak of an ugly rumour. Word is out there on the street that Ubisoft is either preparing or is actually going to kill off Watch Dogs. Now this, I cannot countenance. Ubisoft, I just don't understand you sometimes. You have bad news story after bad news story. I mean, we all know about all your various footerings with like anti-union moves, how you're a toxic workplace, and you're shuffling around of really dodgy characters in high positions to just be in high positions in different places. I'm going to move all that to the side and really just talk this through, because I don't understand. When you created Watch Dogs, the first game, it was a revolutionary step. There was great ideas in there, new ideas. And Lord knows, in this day and age, we need new ideas, we need new concepts, we need new IP, or at least IP that's still relatively young and spring forth and continue on. Because Lord knows, we are replete with games and characters that are repeated ad infinitum and become eventually quite boring and predictable. It's just, look, let's round it out, okay? When we got the first Watch Dogs game, yes, okay, there was all the furore over, oh, this is nothing like the E3 trailer that we first saw. Well, back in those days, half the trailers we saw were nothing like the game we ended up getting, because the power didn't exist yet. So that was just how it was. I mean, considering that Watch Dogs itself was a cross-generational game when it was meant to be the next-gen game of that period. But it was such a good game. It worked so well. I mean, okay, it doesn't look that great now, but that's because that was all that time ago. I mean, gaming's moved on a lot. A lot. But Watch Dogs has moved with it. Now, we could all talk about how not great a character Aiden Pierce is for a number of reasons, but also, in a number of ways, he is also a good character. It's a real sort of Marmite situation with Aiden. Because he's capable, he's focused, he has a strong ability set that you can totally upgrade, like a lot of Ubisoft games. But the world in which he existed in, and the force he was fighting against, there was something just deeply compelling about it. I mean, the whole thing with that giant network of security systems and, you know, the big company knowing everything and being in everything was so prescient to the world we live in now. And we were starting to see then, and has only become more so over the years, hits home in so many ways. And it was a great game with a special concept. I mean, yes, okay, there were things it did that other games had up until that point done, but it was the way that it blended them together. For me, the game just worked super nicely. And it was so nice to see. It was refreshing. It really just was one of those games where you felt invested and you wanted to push story forward. You wanted to make the character stronger. You wanted to see how it ended. And Lord knows there were some really difficult bits that had me absolutely banging my head against the wall. But I pushed on forward and I made it happen because I really just wanted to know how it all turned out. And then a few years later we got Watch Dogs 2, and Watch Dogs 2 was amazing. I mean, the almost one-to-one San Francisco just looked fantastic. And the flexibility of the characters. And Marcus was likeable. And I loved Wrench. Wrench was a breath of fresh air. And then, of course, at a point in the game, depending on how you play it, you actually get to do a mission where you have Aiden and Marcus work together. Now, it's a very short little thing, but it was a lot of fun. And that was the thing about Watch Dogs 2. It was bright, it was vibrant, it expanded on the ideas of the first game, and it was even more fun. I mean, yes, okay, there was a couple of missions that were a bit samey and stuff, and you did retread a lot of the same ground, but it didn't matter. Not only that, it had that semi-online mode where you could be another member of DedSec, helping out helping out other people who are basically playing their single player game, and you could come in as another member of DedSec and help them out. And Lord knows I had some fun with that. I played with a couple of people, and we would help each other with each other's missions and stuff, and rode around and had races and stuff. We kind of slightly broke the game a little bit by just doing our own thing in the San Francisco world of Watch Dogs 2. But I mean, the whole thing with the drone racing, and it was all just fun. Now, admittedly, we have to talk about 3, we have to talk about Legion, and the things it did right, and obviously the things it did wrong, because after all, it is Ubisoft, and Ubisoft are, at this point, almost famous for their ability to get it massively right, and at exactly the same time also get it massively wrong. When you consider the world of Watch Dogs Legion, I mean, that slightly futuristic London was so well put together, was so well imagined, and was so vibrant, it felt lived in. Now, yeah, the people felt a bit cookie cutter, even though there was a mass variation and there was all the clever AI that like made every Londoner look different and gave everybody different accents and stuff. And that was clever. But sometimes it went a bit too far, because sometimes it would give people accents that they clearly wouldn't normally have. If you know anything about the sort of demographics of your typical Londoner. So there were a couple of times where it went a bit too far, but that was also part of its charm. And the ideas it had, and the way that it was like blended together online and offline at the same time. But you could turn the online off completely if you wanted to. You could play it as a purely single player experience. And either way, it was perfectly cromulent. And there was so many good ideas, and the way that they was using artificial intelligence and the whole thing with the surveillance state and the hints towards Brexit, it all just looked really, really good, and it all seemed, believable enough. Yes, it was slightly fantastical because you had people roaming around the streets of London with guns, and basically an armed militia from the state, well, a company that was hired by the state to basically police London, but with automatic weapons. Seems unlikely, but then again, sometimes life gets weird. And it was all just such a great idea, the way that they handled it. I personally thought it was great. Now, yeah, okay, sometimes some of the character models got a bit funky and things just looked a bit odd, but it didn't matter because the game had a great atmosphere. And I, at the time, had spoken over the years of at least 2 or 3 videos, where I said what I wanted was an expansion pack, a whole other set of missions, a good sort of 10-hour experience, where You go up north, you come to the freed, independent Scotland that have managed to get back into the EU, not suffer the worst of the Brexit, and basically be the revolution starting point to claw England back from the worst excesses of Albion and kick them out and free England and let it be the green and pleasant land again, and remove the tyranny that had come to be, that basically ruled the citizens of London and probably also the rest of England. I mean, we never saw it outside of London, but I think that would have been so cool. And given that Assassin's Creed had been wormed into the narrative, I mean, remember in Black Flag, there was a bit where you're in the office. Was it Black Flag? No, not Black Flag. No, yes, it was Black Flag. Where you're in the office of Abstergo, and you hear the chatter, and you read the files, and you find out that the assassins and the company from Watch Dogs, whose name is escaping me for the moment. Oh god, sorry, it's late. It's after work. I'm making this video because I got in and read the article on the bus and I had to make this video, so I'm sorry it's a bit late, my brain's a bit fuzzy. But yeah, so the company that was behind all the stuff in CTOS, yeah. So CTOS and Abstergo were kind of companies that sort of liked each other and were willing to work together and stuff. And there was a woman that said she'd had a job offer from CTOS and was going to go away from Abstergo and go to CTOS. And the whole idea that there was a bit in Watch Dogs Legion where you actually work with a member of the Brotherhood. So they'd link those worlds together. And I personally love the idea that I had thought of, and I thought would have been a great story piece of game, where basically the assassins and DedSec work together from a freed Scotland to free England. You know, there would have been so much possibility. You would have had probably like an Edinburgh map, or maybe a Glasgow map, or maybe a Glasgow and an Edinburgh map, because those cities are smaller than London is. So they could have done that. You could have had a good chunk of the Central Belt even. I know I'm getting wild here, but there could have been such expansion of possibilities. And it really just was a great flight of fancy that was Watch Dogs. But we've seen this time and time again with Ubisoft through the last few years. They build such great things and then they find a way to sort of knacker their own vision. I mean, look at Riders Republic. Riders Republic, when it came out, what a great idea! What fantastic looking races, you know. Hordes of folk online racing against each other in some of the wackiest races you've ever seen in your whole puff. And it is a lot of fun when it's rocking and rolling and there's people involved, and it's like just the ultimate in mad races. And the events and stuff, and doing those with other people or doing those against the machine, and all the ghost data that's left behind by other players. The game had so much promise. When it came out, it only had a select few amount of different types of riding equipment, like snowboards and skis and bikes, and obviously rocket packs and the wingsuits. And then they brought out some other bits and pieces of equipment like skateboards and other specialised bikes and stuff, and some other snow equipment. But they put those behind a paywall, which I personally think was a mistake. If that game could release those items, you know, not the cosmetics, leave the cosmetics behind the paywall, but the actual equipment that makes the game, then my God, people would continue to come back to that game to earn the other bits of equipment and race in the races that use those bits of equipment. And then because they're racing the races of those equipment types, because it's all about the individuality that you display through your character, through the stunts you perform and the rides you ride on and the clothing you wear and the look of your character, they could have introduced more body types, more hair types, and then because of those, they could have just gone mental with putting out more and more outfits, and you put those behind the paywall, not the riding equipment, but no, everything went behind the paywall. So that means if you want the skateboard and the rest of it, all the new equipment for Riders Republic, you got to pony up the cash. And a lot of people don't. In fact, if anything, the player count for Riders Republic has dropped off significantly from what I'm told. And it's a shame because it was a good idea. At Ubisoft, you keep doing this. You have great ideas and then you milk them and you spoil them. I mean, the word is that you're planning to do the same sort of lazy online battle pass world type gubbins to Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed is your golden goose, and you're looking, from all intents and purposes, from what's being said, to kill the golden goose. No more golden eggs for you, Ubisoft. You muck around with Assassin's Creed in that manner, if indeed you do, I don't see a bright future for you. I just don't understand where you're at sometimes, Ubisoft. You make really good stuff. You have some really great ideas. You have some super creative people and some really interesting studios. You bring together some of the most interesting art, and then you make some of the most silly decisions imaginable. Look, let me tie it right down for you, Ubisoft. 1. Don't kill off Watch Dogs. Make it better, make it more interesting, make it even deeper next time around. Really just go for it. Tell whatever story you want to tell. Don't even have that warning at the front. Different groups and different things and blah 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 and religions and blah. Scrap that. Move on. Just go. This is our game. We're proud to present this. And then have your vision going, ha ha. Who cares if people get a wee bit offended? You know what? These days, and I'm a big lefty and I'll tell you this, everybody is offended by everything. You're never going to please everybody. You just can't. It's impossible. There's too much variation in all the various different types of human running around this planet. You're not going to please all of them. You are eventually, no matter how careful you are, going to annoy a significant chunk of them. That's just how it is. Live with it. Go forward. Push your vision and have fun. And say a few people get annoyed, fine. There's plenty more people to buy your games. And if you make interesting, creative, good looking, narrative driven single player experiences with a hint of multiplayer on the side occasionally, you can't lose. Because if people see that you're making quality stuff, they'll buy that quality stuff. If you make games that are cookie cutter messes, you won't sell games. It's really that simple. So when it comes to Assassin's Creed, make sure that you tell a good, interesting, tight, concise story. I mean, look behind me with Assassin's Creed Mirage. Brilliant game. Not perfect, but my God. It was such a breath of fresh air to play. It was an Assassin's Creed game again. No, don't get me wrong. I've loved pretty much every Assassin's Creed. Couldn't quite get down with Rogue, and I've never really thought that Odyssey was an Assassin's Creed game. I thought it was a game that used the Assassin's Creed name and used some of the Assassin's Creed iconography. But to me, it was never really an Assassin's Creed game. Valhalla was brilliant. Overly long, but brilliant. But you know what? Even though it was overly long, for me personally, I never felt like it outstayed its welcome because it had so much to give. The world, all the side things and story and the history and the battle mechanics, and obviously there was some stuff taken from previous Assassin's Creed to move forward, and there could have been some new developments made for such a big title. But it really, really just worked. And that's the thing, when you guys are on it, you are on it. So be that Ubisoft again. I mean, you're the guys that basically saw a gigantic company coming for you, who tried to buy you, and you were like, no, we stand alone, we are Ubisoft, we have our own creative vision. And you stopped them buying up all that stock by buying it yourselves. And you diluted their power so you could continue to be your Ubisoft. Do it your way. And I think you've lost some of that direction, Ubisoft. Be that again. So, when it comes right down to it, one, narrative, then the looks, then the length, occasionally online stuff. Focus on the IP that's made you fantastic. Get back into a position where you have money and the trust again of gamers, and then start doing side projects again. Obviously leave Far Cry alone. You've only just recently put out Far Cry, but make sure that Assassin's Creed Red and Assassin's Creed Hexe are really interesting. Stop trying to flood us with microtransactions. Make your games about earning the stuff in the games through gameplay, weapons, armors, costumes, looks, whatever it is, earnable through gameplay. Because if we're earning things through gameplay, you know what that means we're doing? We're playing the game. If we're playing the games, we're engaged in the game. And if we're engaged in the games, then if there's stuff you want to sell that's cosmetic at the side, we'll be more likely to buy that stuff to increase the scope of the game. You gotta think long term. All this short term thinking is knackered you. I mean, I know that there's a high probability that nobody from Ubisoft will ever see this video, but you see this video as fam. So obviously, please share it around. And maybe, just maybe, someday, somebody somewhere will get the right idea and make some moves that are a bit more pro gamer and less, pro shareholder. And on the last point I wish to make, please don't discontinue your great IPs like Watch Dogs, because Watch Dogs was truly something special, and I for one really enjoyed it, and I'd love to see more. And I know that I'm far from alone in this. I know that Watch Dogs has a supremely large following, and people really, really dig it. Anyway, hashtag support Scottish YouTubers, and of course, as always, nae bother.